Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 128 Jersey Avenue here in Oregon City. We are located down in the basement. As you face the house from the street, face the front door from the road, that's how I describe everything. We are on the right side foundation wall, just up into the crawl space area. We have a 4-inch cast iron cleanout as our point of access. We're going to insert the camera and check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water's currently running. We are zeroed out. And off we go. Like we may have some hot water running. We'll try and get the steam cleared out when we pull back in and get a little nicer view. Alright, let's hope for a whole bunch of cast iron pipe here. And no party lines. These older neighborhoods in Oregon City, I've caught a fair amount, especially these old homes. Party lines are pretty common in this part of town, or at least this part of Oregon City. And Orangeburg pipe got used a little bit here, which is a tar paper sewer line product. You want nothing to do with it. Alright, transitioning here over to concrete pipe, and that's a good sign. That looks like 4-inch concrete there. The line didn't really change much in diameter at all. Now, usually if you're into concrete at this point, generally you're not going to see Orangeburg. And kudos to the homeowners here. They're doing a very good job at keeping the line clean. There's essentially zero buildup whatsoever in the line. Doing a hard dive here. Alright, and that looks like we just hit the main there, or the terminus. So, we're going to go do some locating really quick to see where the line's currently sitting at. I'm hoping I can get a decent locate here. It's a very awkward spot on this hard dive like this. I'm hoping I can get some kind of locate here. Alrighty, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Jersey Avenue. As you face the house, looking at the front door from the street, line pops out the right side of the house, hangs a turn, and pretty much heads straight out to the road. Right where you would visualize it being. Just turns away from the house and runs pretty much dead straight. And I located that in line with the manhole well into the roadway. On these hilly areas up in here, these are where I get a little more concerned about party lines, so it's nice to see that. So, just looking at the concrete pipe here. Oh boy. Sorry, someone just did a toilet flush right next to my face here. Anyway, we're going to see some water shooting past the camera in a moment. You can see how we've got some aggregate rock exposed right now. So the concrete's showing its age. That spot there, because of the vertical dive, that aggregate rock is really not doing much to affect functionality. In a flatter spot, that aggregate rock can have a little more effect on flow. It's just that rougher product. But, you know, unless I see anything really severe going on here, as we pull back in. And right now my camera is upside down, in case you're wondering why the water's at the top of the screen. It's showing its age, but still functions very, very nicely. And one of the things that shows that is just how clean the line is. This is cleaner than half the lines I scoped that are 2 years old. And I'm not joking. I've cambered about almost 25,000 sewer lines over my 13 years here. This is a very clean sewer line, especially when you consider its age. But what I want you to really keep in the back of your head here, this is a line worth rescoping periodically. It's an older sewer line. It's showing its age. It's got some aggregate rock exposed. Most of it's on the vertical drop. As you can see in this area here, it's much smoother pipe. Usually the first thing that wears out with concrete pipe is the joints. The joints are generally grouted, which is just another type of concrete. And all those joints right now are holding up. You want to keep an eye on this from this standpoint. And I can't remember off the top of my head if Oregon City takes responsibility in the roadway. Most stuff in Clackamas County, the homeowner's responsible all the way out. You want to scope this thing about every 2 years, and I wouldn't go longer than that. At some point in time, usually what will go first is the pipe joints will start to open up to the ground. And it's generally a slow but sure process. None of this stuff generally happens aggressively and quickly. But when you start to see evidence of groundwater seepage coming through the pipe joints, dirt sticking through them, and especially if you start to notice any gradation loss where you start to get little bits of standing water sitting in the line, those joints, as they open up to the ground, can cause hydro erosion. They can allow dirt to flow into the pipe and erode the support out from underneath the line. So what I'm getting at here is nowadays, with the advent of epoxy lining, which is a completely trenchless repair system, or almost entirely, sometimes you have to put a clean out in on the outside, but the remainder of it, the stuff that's under the road, the really expensive stuff, and I promise you, this is not one you want to dig up. That line is deep. If you can catch this at the right time, you can avoid digging. Sometimes you have to add a clean out in just outside the foundation, so you have a nicer shot into the line. But this is a line you can update essentially trenchlessly. You just got to keep an eye on it. And that cost savings in a situation like this is humongous. We're talking like 3 to 4 times cheaper. Just to line that concrete section there, it's approximately about half the line. It's about $100 a foot, and then you've got a setup fee. You could probably line this thing, assuming you didn't have to put another clean out in, for around $4,500-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. If you had to dig this thing and dig down to the depth of that main, I promise you're going to be looking at more like $15,000 to $20,000. Way more expensive. So it behooves you to keep an eye on them. And this cast iron's held up very nicely too. There's a little bit of scale here and there, but most of it is very smooth and looks good. So anyhow, we have good flow all the way out to the main lateral connection. Absolutely spotless clean line, and the line has not lost a millimeter of grade. It looks amazing considering its age. But keep an eye on it so you can take advantage of that. If you let a line wear out and get too far gone, if you did your next scope or decided to try and look into that 10 or 15 years from now, you may very well have reached a point where if you start developing too much standing water, offset joints, things like that, you can often still do an epoxy liner on them. You're just not getting a nice, beautiful, perfect result out of it. So anyway, and if you let them get too far gone, you simply cannot line them anymore. So keep an eye on it here and there. As you sit here today, this thing functions beautifully. What I will tell you, especially if you're newer to home ownership and haven't lived in an older home like this, cast iron and concrete, as you can see there, is not the smoothest pipe product naturally, relative to something like plastic pipe. It is not a forgiving pipe product, cast iron and concrete both, but especially the cast iron to things like flushable wipes. I put those in the improper category. They have no business going down a newer plastic sewer line, but absolutely no business going down an older line like this. They will stick everywhere in the line. If you get people wadding them up, they will block this thing up like you can't believe. So keep it to toilet paper. Fold your toilet paper. Don't ball it up. Those are the best pointers I can give you. And try and do what these folks are doing too. They're not putting cooking oil and grease down the line. This thing is spotless. Normally when I look at lines this age, you got a nice big thick layer of jet black sewer sludge in the flow line. So you want to try and keep it this way. Wipe your pans out with a paper towel. Once the pan cools down, pour the grease into a jar. It just helps keep that gunk out of the pipe, and it extends the life of the cast iron especially. Grease buildup traps acids underneath it and allows them to sit on the pipe. Cast iron and concrete, both for that matter, are not a chemically stable product, so things that are acidic do eat at the pipe. So, and that goes for your smaller sink drains as well. What I highly recommend, if you ever get a clog in one of your sink drains, don't jump straight to Drano. Drano will eat through hair and get things moving in the immediate, but it severely corrodes cast iron. And usually what causes blockages in cast iron drains is a combination of scale buildup, which naturally accrues over time. It's just rust flakes that hair gets hung up in. And if you go and put acids down it, which is what Drano is, hydrochloric acid, it will dissolve the hair, but it will also eat the pipe. And what you end up with is significantly more scale buildup following that, and your clogs become more frequent and recurring. So try and clear blockages with an auger if you can, first and foremost, before you have to jump to something like a Drano. Anyway, line is functioning properly at this time. It's an oldie but a goodie, but keep an eye on it. I would wager, just based on how it looks today, I would probably plan to do an update on this thing realistically probably within the next 10 years, but it's some of these lines will surprise you. They can go longer than you think. It all depends on, the reason you can't predict it is it all depends on usage. The more these older lines are used, the faster they wear out. So smaller houses, smaller occupancy, they usually extend longer. But just I don't want to see anyone have to do a traditional dig if you're here long enough to see that. Rescope periodically and watch for any signs that the line starts to open up to the ground, so you can catch it at the right time.